everybody. Welcome in tonight. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you guys in here. I was just checking out that chat tonight. This is going to be a super cool show tonight. And I have my friend Barry Littleton here in the studio tonight. We're going to be talking about the high strangeness of the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, and what else is going on in these Appalachians? Y'all know I've done a lot of targets, a lot of remote viewing targets with cryptids especially. And in animal attacks, people getting attacked by allegedly getting attacked by cryptids along the Appalachians, and so we're going to be talking about that tonight. Okay, if you guys would like to follow along with my data for all of my targets that I do, I have a Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress over there on Patreon, and I would love to have you guys become a member over there. And shout out to all of my Patreon members. I love you guys. Thanks for all that support that y'all give me. Also, I do have a website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com, where you guys can find all of my shows, any kind of information that y'all need regarding the Cryptid Huntress is over there on that website. Also, I have a shop that's called War Woman Goods, and it's a great way to support the War Woman in Jessica, okay, over here. So, yeah, so thank you guys for all your support. And it is Christmas, y'all. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, a wonderful holiday season, whatever y'all celebrate. Okay. I celebrate Christmas with my family. And so I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Yeah, I'm going to try to be back next week, do some more shows for you guys. But we are off this weekend at Spaced Out Radio, or I am at least. Okay. So I will not be there this weekend because I will be with my family. Okay, so this is our Christmas party right now. Okay. Also, right after this show tonight, I am going directly over to Super Soldier Talk with James Rink and Jimmy Payne. They've got me co-hosting over there tonight with James, and so let's go over to Super Soldier Talk shortly after this. If you guys are down, okay, because I'm down. It's gonna be a fun night. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to our show because we don't have a ton of time tonight. We have about an hour, and we're going to squeeze all this stuff in. I did remote view something for my friend Bryce. Okay. And Bryce is with Esoteric Atlanta, and she did a show which is exclusive to Gnostic TV. And so I had remote viewed a blind target for her. We're going to kind of touch on what I remote viewed there because it had to do with Hellier, Kentucky. And a lot of y'all might be very familiar with that. There's like a TV show or a series about Hellier. And it was really interesting because I watched the first couple of episodes of it, and it had a lot of the information, a lot of the cryptid stories that I have covered on my remote viewing shows already were on that show, including the Kentucky Goblins. Okay. We're going to talk about a whole bunch more tonight. But I did remote view Hellier, Kentucky, in the high strangeness there. So we're gonna dance around that one a little bit tonight, and much more. I also, before I bring Barry up, y'all, I just wanted to tell you, like, this is kind of wild. It kind of threw me off a little bit. Right before the show started, I was checking my emails, and I was contacted by a representative of a family of a missing woman who I had I'm about to get emotional over this. So there was, I've been doing some shows with my friend Bryce. Shout out to Bryce. What's up, Bryce? Over at Esoteric Atlanta. And she's been giving me some blind remote viewing targets. And one of my favorite things is to locate missing people. Okay, at least find out what happened to them, or if I could just give any kind of information. But of course, with Bryce, I didn't know what I was getting. It could have been a zombie or a vampire or something was my target. But this one time it was a missing person. And to not get into too much of the details on this, there's a pretty high profile case of a woman and who's been missing since around 2004 up in Connecticut, I believe. And apparently my data caught her family's attention. Okay, so I was contacted by them today, and I'm going to be meeting with them probably tomorrow over my data. So, wow. Y'all, this remote viewing stuff is serious business, y'all, and I'm glad to say that it may be helping in some of these cases. So, anyways, I'll keep y'all posted on that. I don't know what's going on, but apparently there's some stuff that might have been in my data. I'm just gonna say it caught their attention. Okay, so without further ado, let's bring Barry Littleton up, you guys. And I want to give an overview of kind of what we're going to talk about. The Appalachian Mountains are home to some of the scariest supernatural stories and cryptid encounters. Not only do I conduct field research in the Appalachian Mountains, but I have been tasked with numerous targets centered around the Appalachians, from vicious cryptid attacks to mysterious missing persons reports, alien encounters, and locations of unusually high strangeness. Now, we're going to talk about some of these cases that I've already covered and some that I have not really made public yet tonight with my friend Barry Littleton. And Barry is an amazing researcher, a very good friend of mine. Please subscribe to his YouTube channel. That's Barry Littleton on YouTube and on Patreon. Please help me welcome to the show tonight, Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry.
Hey, greetings, Jessica. How you doing? Hello to you. Hello to the audience. Thank you for having me here again. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hey, I have you 2 nights in a row. Okay, I can't ask for anything better than that. That's the best Christmas present right there. Getting to hang out with Barry for 2 nights in a row.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And this should be interesting as always. You know, I'm not real abreast of the things in the Appalachian, except for 1 or 2 things. So I'm kind of just along for the ride, and and I think it's probably cool. It's the end of the year, so we can touch on some things that we've done work-wise, some blind targets too, and just do an overview, which is cool. So I'm with you all the way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Barry. I'm just excited to be here tonight. I guess you heard I did get contacted by the family of a missing person that I had remote viewed a blind target for on a show that I did. And so it's really interesting to see a lot of these things come full circle, when I'm doing these remote viewing targets. And not having any kind of information as to what I'm looking at or anything. And then the family really picking that up on the radar and wanting to talk to me about it. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
Congratulations, although it's a slightly morbid, topic as far as make sure you protect your own energy, because just looking at that and dealing with that, it can be really hard on people,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I kind of know how to protect myself. Listen, I look up savage, Dogman attacks and stuff. So I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
Savage. Gotcha.
That's right. But yeah, so Roger said that he lives in Hellier. Okay, so that's the county where he lives. That's very interesting. Barry, had you ever heard of Hellier before? And I think I might have sent you a link to one of those shows. What did you think about it?
I got it. I didn't really get to see it, and I was too tied up. But I'm not real familiar with this Hellier thing. So maybe so I'll be learning with everyone else. So.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it myself. I did a little show with Bryce, and that is going to be over on Gnostic TV. And she's really, she's researched Hellier a lot, but I can tell you that it has something to do with a town. Okay, there's like an area out there. Roger would know. It's just an area of super high strangeness, and I was given that Hellier and the high strangeness there as a blind remote viewing target by Bryce, and I was picking up on all sorts of really cool stuff. But it dealt with, like, let's just say, aliens and UFOs, and potentially even, I was picking up on like serial killers and stuff too. So it was a very interesting target. But it had a lot to do with like cryptids, UFOs, and aliens, which actually lines up with that show. And let me tell you who they talk about on one of the episodes: the Kentucky Goblins. Okay.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yes. I love how those creatures have just now being called goblins as opposed to extraterrestrials, as that just suddenly changed in the last 5 years or so.
Well, what was it before? Was it just like aliens?
You're talking about the Sutton House, right? The ones that you had viewed, right?
Yes, yeah, the Kentucky Goblins. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're extraterrestrials. And they even had, and the discussion that story has changed over the years. Like when I first heard about that, I was a kid in the 70s. And they described those beings as having on suits, not just being a type green color, but having on these silver suits, shimmering suits that seemed to make them resistant to the bullet fire.
Because they were shot at. They were shot at. And that's something I would have shot at them too. I'm not going to lie. Especially if they were coming after my kids. But
they didn't really do anything. And if you think about it, right now, when you're dealing with the people that were firing on them, the best chance for them to make a communication probably be with the youth. Same thing as the Zimbabwe, same thing as the schoolyard. I mean, I don't know. Because I think if they're resistant to firepower, if they want to get them kids, they would have got them. It's that simple.
You know, you bring up a really good point. Okay, it's like we don't have a whole lot of control over some of these cryptids that we've looked into. If we've learned anything over all the past couple of years that we've done these remote viewing shows together, Barry, you and I, and I've done them with, you know, other guests as well. There's these cryptids, a lot of them have enhanced capabilities like psychic abilities, telekinesis, telepathy, psychokinetic abilities and stuff. And it's almost like, and I'm out in the field doing Bigfoot field research and doing all this cryptid research. They do have a way that they can put out infrasound. They can zap you. I got zapped before. Okay. There's a whole lot of stuff they can do where you're kind of like helpless. You know, it could render you helpless in a lot of circumstances.
Same way they can kill batteries and stuff. They can, you know, zap our energy too. And and then the infrasound getting hit with that. There's a whole myriad of things out there that can happen. And you're right. Another reason I'm not, you know, I applaud everyone who goes out doing the, what do you call it, boots on the ground research and all that. Because my butt's not going to do it. I'm staying in the concrete jungle for the most part. Sorry.
Oh no. Listen, I'll do it all for us, man. I love getting out there and going camping and doing all this stuff. And let me tell you, the only thing that's ever kind of deterred me from doing something was the Japanese Kappa remote viewing target that you and I did, because I'll still go out in the woods. I don't care what kind of data I'm getting off these targets with the cryptids. I live for that. I'll go out in the woods anytime, regardless of how vicious these things can be, because I feel like I can protect myself, hopefully. Probably. I don't know. But jumping in that lake, after we did those shows on the water cryptids, I had a hard time doing that.
I can understand. Yeah. I understand that definitely. Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable. I feel like something was going to grab my feet. So, and that's something that I actually want to look more into this next year. Are some of the remote view? I'd like to do some remote viewing targets, but really, I don't care if they're targets or not. I'd like to look into this stuff about the ancient Egyptian settlements and our history not being what we're taught, and potentially having ancient Egyptian settlements where a lot of these gigantic lakes in the south have been made, like man-made lakes like Lake Lanier and Lake Norris and Lake Allatoona and all these different lakes all over the south. I think there's more to it
too, right? They found stuff in the Grand Canyon, I think, too.
In the Grand Canyon, that's right. Well, there's been Egyptian settlements and things like that, Viking settlements, okay, all over the country. But I'm particularly want to look into a lot of these lakes. I think that deserves a lot more research. Okay, is to find out why these lands were flooded out and were they covering something up? Okay, so food for thought, y'all. Just write that down. We're writing it down, making a note. We're going to be looking into that this next year in 2024. Okay, I can promise you that. But okay, so in Hellier they were talking about the what do you call them? The Kentucky Goblins. Okay, but there's also something else over there in Kentucky. A lot of high strangeness in Kentucky. Now I do want to show the audience kind of a picture about where in Kentucky all this high strangeness is going on. First of all, let's show the audience the Appalachian Mountains, Barry. I'm going to show you too. I'm going to show myself. The Appalachian Mountains are the oldest mountain range in the world. The oldest. And they reach all the way up to Maine, all the way down into Alabama. I guess that's Alabama, where that red is right there. It's funny because they've got nicknames: the Smoky Mountains, the Yankee Lacha. So anyways, y'all can read that.
That's all technically Appalachia, right?
It's all Appalachia. Yeah, this is kind of a topographical type of map where you can. It's hard to see it from my phone here, but yeah.
Now when we first met in
Mhm.
person in Helen, Georgia, at that conference, wasn't that on the edge or the end of the Appalachian Trail or something where we're looking at
Yes,
back there?
it was.
Yeah.
That was in North Georgia, in that blue area right there. Georgia is right down here, and in that corner. And it's where in that blue area. That's Helen. We were at Unicoi State Park. A lot of high strangeness. There's actually a very famous, very well-known Indian burial mound right there in Helen. They call it the Romeo and Juliet Mound. It's got an Indian name as well, but that's the typical name. The easy name that people can remember from that area.
Big time bear problem there too. I was not very comfortable with that.
A lot of bears.
Yeah, I would like to go walking at night. I didn't walk at night there. Let me tell you.
That's right. That's right. Well, this is so Hellier, where a lot of that high strangeness that show is based on, is right there in the eastern part of Kentucky, right there. And if you guys remember too, with a lot of these targets that I've done over the past year or so, like East Tennessee and East Kentucky have a lot of high strangeness. Okay. And that's where a lot of this, like the Kentucky Goblins are located over there in that area. Okay. Yeah, lots of high strangeness. All, I just want to make a note. I did get the targets of those unspecified animal attacks of, I believe it was Tony Aarons and Amber Miller out there in East Tennessee. And that's also where they allegedly have that Large Hadron Collider out there, where they work on the ALICE project with CERN. And that's where Oak Ridge Labs is. And the Manhattan Project has come up a couple of times this past couple of months in some of my targets and some of the shows that I've done. So go figure. There's a whole lot of high strangeness going on out there. And I think that may have some kind of connection to these cryptids that are in that area. What do you think, Barry?
Could be. Is it on a ley line too? Kentucky on a ley line?
I'm sure it is. I don't have my ley line map here, but it probably is. Mm-hmm. It could be. It could be.
I've heard Kentucky come up many times on a lot of different things.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get an idea of kind of where. Well, I thought the land between the lakes was in the Appalachians, but it doesn't look like it though. I think the land between the lakes is more over on the west side of Kentucky. So I was going to bring up the land between the lakes and all the alleged Dogman attacks that happened there, and I did do a target of those. But to me, it's looking like it's not even in the Appalachians hardly.
And that's the one. LBL is what she said was it's more or less a breeding ground for dogmen for military purposes, something along those lines. Is that right?
There's some sort of, that was, according to that data, there was some sort of underground facility, I do believe, there in that area. I actually have my folder right here too. Yeah. Let me see what that data was, because there was, so what I was looking at in that target was the attack on that family that was alleged to have been murdered there in 1982, I believe. Okay, in 1982. And so I had two different targets for that one. And one of the targets was what happened, I guess whatever happened to that family, okay, or if it happened, okay. And I got a whole bunch of data. It was rough. That was a really rough one. I did determine through this data that I do believe that was a real incident. And there were people that did lose their lives there, okay. And it was okay. We were trying to determine if that was a real thing, okay. And it was. Okay, according to the data. Then I had another target that apparently was the description of the dogmen there. Okay, describe the beast of the LBL, but it turns out there's not just one beast of the LBL, there was a bunch of them. Okay, and they were all different shapes and sizes for the most part over there. But I did pick up on some, I don't want to say government. I'm real hesitant these days to say government involvement. I'll say like agency involvement of some sort.
Now,
because I don't know.
Did you pick up Gugly on that too, or Gugly type creatures or anything like that, or just strictly Dogman?
No, I was actually picking up on what looked like a hyena type Dogman. is what I picked up on in that target. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman says Kentucky is supposedly the capital of caves. Super interesting because Tennessee is full of caves. Tennessee is actually like one big gigantic cave. And so that's another target that I did this past year was I actually went on a field investigation in mid Tennessee. It's like the northern part of Tennessee, right at the Kentucky border. And there was that cave that allegedly had skinwalkers in it, Barry. I went there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a little unnerving. But I went there for an active field investigation of a couple who had been having their chickens were being taken out of their chicken coop at night. They had a cave 30 feet from their back door. By the way, they don't live there anymore. They moved shortly after we did that investigation, actually.
Really?
Yeah, they had cameras all over their house. They were picking up these big, gigantic, hulking figures, creeping in and out of their yard at night, and even moving the camera. Like they were actually moving the cameras at night. Like whenever their chickens would disappear, the cameras were moved to face another location so that they couldn't see the activity that was going on in their chicken coop.
That sounds like Sasquatch. That's
It
a
does.
Sasquatch move. That's a Sasquatch move there.
It was definitely a Sasquatch move, and there were actual Sasquatch footprints around the chicken coop as well, right there at their house, and their house would get banged on at night and stuff too. So that's definitely Sasquatch behavior, in my opinion.
And they were wanting to stop this, right?
Well, they wanted to know what it was first of all, and yes, they didn't really want to keep it there.
Well, I'll tell you, I hate to crack the joke, but you know what it is. If they're having that problem, put up some cameras, more cameras, some real good ones. They'll be gone. That's the probably the cameras they had were insufficient if they were able to move them. You know what I mean? The ones that you have the more expensive ones, they'll start taking off. They won't want to be around it.
Yeah.
But it's just it's neither here nor there. But yeah, because somebody's talking when I was hanging out with Tom that time. The lady was taking pictures of us. She said, my brother's got those things. They're costing a lot of, what do you call it? Not cattle, merchandise for farming, whatever. I'm sorry, I should know that word. Anyway, but he said, he can't even see them, let alone, stop them. He can't even get a look at them, but they're costing him a lot of money. And Tom was like, tell him to put up good cameras. They'll be gone, just like that. And I started laughing. That's just funny. But until you look at me, he goes, I'm serious. They'll take off.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and you know what? And that's why I personally don't take a whole lot of equipment out in the field with me when I'm out there doing our field research, because first of all, it probably will malfunction. I'm not going to say it will always malfunction, but a lot of times our equipment malfunctions anyways. Things get, I'm not going to say blown up, but we had an incident one night where Glenn, one of the guys on my team, his cell phone went haywire and it reset back to 1952 or something. It was just weird. It was like it like our equipment just goes bonkers when we're out there in the field. And now is it cryptids? Could it be cryptids doing it? I don't know. I think it's just the energetics or the magnetics of the place, or we're still, it's an ongoing investigation.
All these things might be tied together. A place that's got ley lines, portals, cryptids, it's all maybe the same thing and not the different layered things that we want it to be. And I think all that to itself begins grabbing, I think, energy from batteries and things and just the environment itself, as well as you have certain cryptids that can do it also. It's very fascinating because ultimately we all still don't really truly know what we're dealing with. No matter if we can see, if we've got, what we hear, it's still there a large amount of ominous unknown here, but
that's right. We really don't know, but and I can actually show the audience too another place that my team has actually researched, and it was one of my remote viewing targets. And y'all know I do more targets than what y'all see online. And my team as a team as a whole, we do we look into places before we go and investigate sometimes. Okay. And because why wouldn't we? I mean, that's kind of why we were trained to do it. But one of those places is called Courtwood Manor. Okay. And that's up in Northwest Georgia. And that was one of my remote viewing targets. And I shared that with the audience. We did a show on it a while back. My buddy Craig, that's part of my team, Craig Action Jackson. He's in the chat sometimes.
Action Jackson.
Craig came on the show with me. And he and I have been to Courtwood Manor together. And I'm bringing this one up because this is in the Appalachian Mountains. This is in Northwest Georgia, and it's close to Helen, not too far from where you and I met for the first time, up in Helen. And this is an area of super high strangeness. Now, this place is known for backwoods cults. Okay. It's known for cryptids. Civil War battles were fought there. It's another one that you and I talked about, that old Green Eyes is up there. But Indian, like, land disputes were going on this land. I mean, honestly, there's no telling what else happened up there. Because we honestly don't know the real nature of our history, I don't think. But a lot of bloodshed had happened up there, prompting some gentlemen to move there on an area they called it Courtwood Manor. And they were kind of instructed on where to put their house by Anton LaVey. Okay. The head of the Church of Satan back then. Okay. So, but this is an area, yeah, there's some more to this story. This is one of those remote viewing targets I looked into because there's so much cryptid activity going on that property, Barry.
Well, that's why. I mean, you just nailed that. I mean, that doesn't take even a psychic to know that. I mean, if it's, I mean, that type of, that I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I think that's a very imperative right now, is to talk about haunted lands and cursed lands. Cursed. Where I live and where I grew up actually is, there was a great massacre of Native Americans there. So some of the land is just saturated with blood. And you've got these things that start coming out of the land, period. Produce from the land, and the psychokinetic energy of the darkness that happened there, whatever you want to call it, loose, DOR, deadly orgone radiation. These are things that really are produced by these areas, and these creatures come up out of the ground. And, I'll give a quick shout out to Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I've been talking a little bit on the side. And, the way he represented the Sasquatch that he saw, the pictures of it, I'd not seen them until recently when he did that show. It having looked like an old person at first, and almost looked somewhat, almost like Down syndrome to a degree, that picture. And then all of a sudden its face morphs into this screaming thing with black eyes. That to me presents type, and the way him and his girlfriend got hit by infrasound and she got sick not long after that, that to me seems like that's more of something coming out of the land, manifested by the land, that's more demonic in nature, and something that's coming out of, these lands we have that were cursed by shamans and things during these wars that went on here. It doesn't just go away, and the land is saturated even if you've got a concrete jungle built over it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Sorry, I don't want to go too far over, but I don't want to go too far over what you were saying, but I think it's important to address that, because people move into houses that are on land like that, and it can be torture to a degree. Those spirits will start doing things. They'll start messing up your car, messing up the plumbing in your head. Always a key deal if you live in a haunted house, the plumbing. You'll start getting that black stuff coming out of the plumbing, and then they'll move over to the garage and get in your car, get into the liquids in your car, and it costs you a bunch of money. They're trying to get you out of there and make you miserable, to generate those negative thoughts, fights with your spouse and family, and they'll start feeding, and this really interesting stored emotions, and can be very negative. So, very makes us food sometimes. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's terrifying. Amy has a great point too. Slaughterhouses have evil energy. And
what's up, Amy?
Hey, Amy. So I can speak from experience. I do have there was a time back in the, I guess like the 2000s, early 2000s. I had a friend who lived in what is now known, or I don't know if it's now known, but it used to be called the U-Haul Lofts in Atlanta, in Midtown, downtown. And that was actually a former slaughterhouse there. And we used to have, he used to have parties at his house and his loft. And we went there a good bit, and I could not stand being there at night because it had such a, and nobody ever even told me it was a slaughterhouse at one time. I didn't know, but I knew that it was a very dark energy there. I didn't like being there, especially not late at night. Okay. But yeah, it does
It's going
hold
to
up
be
with that
saturated
blood.
with blood and fear, saturated with it. I mean, all the time, all day long, it just be layers of it there. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be there either. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
I didn't want to be there at all. But it ties into a lot of these targets that I have looked into with some of this data. It has to do with blood and rituals. Okay, because some people who have knowledge of how blood you can manifest through blood, they take advantage of that, don't they, Barry?
mm-hmm. And that's always been the case. The demonic have always used the blood to manifest. You know, that's how blood sacrifice got going so much on this planet at one point, you know, openly being done. Blood sacrifice to quote unquote gods. You know, you know, and you know, it's something I've talked about before, and it's called actually DOR, deadly orgone radiation. And it's interesting because I hear so many people talk about orgone all the time, they're experts on it, but they never mention that. And you know, when I was younger and I started building, I built a couple of cloud busters. They're very simple to build. I was following Constable's and Reich's work. And you know, I started busting up clouds. It was pretty easy, but I wasn't grounding the water source the way I should have. And these devices started accumulating what's called DOR because I started busting up nimbus cloud, thunder clouds. And they have this DOR that actually holds them together, is what holds them together. That's one reason they have that dark look also, amongst natural reasons. But my machine started accumulating this DOR. And you know, I started not feeling good. When I started using it, I started not feeling it because I didn't, you know, wasn't grounding it. And it was and then later on I got infrared film in the camera, one of my old Kodaks, and put an ultraviolet lens on it and started taking pictures around that device. And you see these things around it that look like amoebas. Trevor Constable calls them critters. On my YouTube channel underneath extraterrestrial beings, there's one that's called video called Critters. Check that out. And that way they look almost like microorganisms, the way they're shaped, amoebas and things of that nature. The way like actually rods really look like flagella, if you look at rods. These are things that exist in our atmosphere that they feed on that DOR. So for those of us, people ask, do you think they're archons? I don't know, maybe. But I mean, the point is, though, they feed on that DOR, the energy. And so if you're generating negative emotions, they feed on that too. And a lot of them are in there feeding in, you know, nimbus clouds. And when you're busting up clouds, you start disturbing that. And hey, I don't know what you get into. You know, I don't use those things anymore. It's been years ago. I know what happened to them now. But anyway, so just you know, these are things, just food for thought I'll throw out there. You know, so. And,
yeah,
you know,
well, go ahead.
Because even some of the ships, like the ships I've been on board, they're using a type of orgone life energy for not just propulsion, but for gravity modification and things of that nature. But this is a ship that's an organism that's using life energy, just as we do. So it's, you know.
Wow, that's really fascinating. And you and I have actually looked into orbs over crop circles. Let's talk about that in just a minute, because I kind of want to, while we're on the subject of like cursed lands and stuff, I did want to mention the Blair Witch. Okay, that is an old show. That's I feel like that's one of the first remote viewing shows that I had done. It was one of my targets, and that was the Blair Witch land and that curse. And most of my data on that one, and if you're not familiar with the Blair Witch case, that is I believe that's out of Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. And I have plans to go there here pretty soon, hopefully with my friend Bryce, because we just did a show on the Blair Witch not too long ago. So it was about, I think her name was Betsy Bell and John Bell. John Bell's property out there in Tennessee was allegedly cursed. And I mean, I honestly, like, whatever.
I gotta tell you, that house looks about haunted. That about does it. It's definitely a good depiction. I'll tell you that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It does look cursed. It says in the early 1800s, a family in Tennessee was tormented by a malicious spirit. It did. Okay, so the story spread like wildfire. There was all sorts of people from all over. I mean, it was basically like before. Obviously, it was before television and stuff, right? But it was like the big news because everybody in the area knew about them being tormented by a spirit. Some were saying it was old Kate Batts. I think was her name, Kate Batts. Had cursed them and stuff. Now, when I had remote viewed this whole curse of the Bell family in that property there, I think it was the property that I had remote viewed. I was picking up on the land being cursed, but it being cursed from a long time ago, like an ancient entity was haunting that land, and it had something to do. I mean, I was picking up on voodoo and stuff, and of course, the families were slave owners, unfortunately, and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if something was conjured because that's a lot of what my data was. But that's right there in the heart of like the Smoky Mountains area, like the Appalachians right there. So I thought it would be interesting to note that. Also, Cryptiville, hey Cryptiville, he makes a good point. It says, hold on. Yeah, it's talking about if you take anything from the Bell Witch cave or the Bell cave, you take it home with you, like a rock, a piece of quartz. That's my vice. I love taking quartz from places that I investigate, but your life will be cursed. Okay, people are known to take a piece of rock and like go home and they lose their job, they lose their family, people pass away, like bad stuff happens. So they take the rocks back.
Haunted objects.
Haunted objects.
Haunted objects. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said everything's fine until you take something. Okay, so don't.
Okay. But also be careful though with the intention you go into a place like that because the wrong intention, the wrong energy you have, even without taking anything, sometimes you can be followed. They'll follow you home.
I've been followed.
Yeah. See, I know. You pick up hitchhikers like you, don't they, Jessica?
Not like anymore.
Bill Bixby, the Incredible Hulk. He's hitchhiking every episode at the end, right?
I will whoop some ghost butt at this point in my life. I know how to whoop ghost butt now. I try. But yeah, intention is everything, Christine. That's right. Intention is everything.
What was that last comment you just had?
Yeah, I was about to pull that back up. That's Cryptiville. Says when I went there, I saw a native shaman, and I really freaked the tour guide out. LOL.
I gotta tell you, I find it absolutely amazing that Cryptiville said that, and you brought that up. I'll tell you why, because I zipped my mouth early. I almost said that. I was years ago, even before my accident. I was in this. It was a haunted house in my local place, and it, like I said, Native American stuff all over. It's near the river, and in this basement was actually a shaman. I could see him. I could see him, a shaman that's actually feeding a type of a portal down there in the basement, and there were just generations of people that were trapped in this house. They were trapping souls in this house, not just that house with that little spot of land, but especially that house. And there were just generations of souls that were trapped in there because, like, from the first settlers that started building there, and it decimated the Indians that were there. So, I mean, that is, and stuff like that is, it's really hard to get that off and out of the land. You're in real trouble. You get a house like that. So the fact she just said that she saw that, yeah, sorry, my fault. Sorry. The name is kind of nebulous. So
there's Mark. Mark's been on the show.
Oh, right on, cool. But yeah, but that's that's interesting, and how much that those type of quantum holograms continue on this planet. So anyway.
It seems like it is impossible pretty much to get these ancient entities, these hauntings out of the land once they're there. It's almost like they're there, and then I guess it's like the rituals, the blood being spilled there, that's what conjures it back up. Is that how that works?
Yeah, and it just saturates the land too, plain and simple. The blood saturates the land, and the vibration saturates the land, and that's just as it is. And it becomes, then you've got medicine men that curse it on top of that because of the war that's going on there. So you got the vibe of war, you got the bloodshed, and you've got the curse going on. These are formidable factors, to say the least.
It is.
And it's like taking things like that, and place like that. I used to knew something that was of corn magic. These dark warlocks that would place corn in people's path, crystals or corn, and then you touch it or step on it and cause you a lot of problems, if not death. These people that practice those dark arts, you got to be very careful.
Whoa. Oh yeah. Well, that's a little bit scary. I mean, I've learned so much this past year, the past couple of years, especially from our friend Dennis Carroll. He's a demonologist, and I've learned a lot from him about what to do. Like if you want to get rid of a Ouija board or something. I will never own a Ouija board. Y'all do not send me a Ouija board for Christmas. Okay, I don't want one. Santa can take that right back. Okay. But yeah, just to be able to know like what to do about curses and stuff, because that's the thing. People are into cursing folks these days and stuff. I think they always have been.
Yes. And the vibration that Earth is at right now, it's very easy to do that. It's easy to access demonic forces because they roam around down here like nothing. You know what I mean? Jumping on people in shadow form and negative inorganic beings and trying to influence people, attaching to people in places of trauma. All that crap goes on down here. There's just layers of trauma, layers of darkness, and that's what this place is. And you saw that last video I did, and I might release it about the Earth. Is Earth really a prison planet? And it's the work I've been doing, especially now. I've got a platform getting clients. I'm amounting the amount that I've done now. And it's like, man, I'm coming across the same thing again and again. And some of the stuff that we're told just doesn't hold out. It doesn't hold up against what people's souls are experiencing, especially during the death process, before the death process, between lives. I'm telling you, a lot of this crap we're hearing in the media, and these people are talking on these platforms that have not experienced it, done the work. It's crap.
Yeah.
And I'm starting I'll shut up real quick, but maybe that last conference I was at in Vegas, somebody pretty well known, and this individual avoided me like the plague. And I don't care for their energy. I avoided them too, but I didn't really know why. And then as I'm leaving in the elevator, leaving this place, wonderful conference, wonderful time. There's this older couple in there going, "We're just coming from this conference thing." I was like, "Oh, that's cool. What are you here for?" I said, "Actually, I spoke in that conference." And they're kind of shaking their head, go, "That's cool, yada, yada." They said, "I'm just disturbed about the last person I saw. They were telling people to not go in the light. It didn't feel right what they were saying." And I said, "Oh, that's why that individual avoids me. They're giving misinformation based lack of experience." What, some entity told you that? Some entity told you that you channeled? No good, man. For people.
My gosh.
Anyway, I'll just bring that out. I just bring that out because you got a good audience here. It's about to be Christmas. I think we're going into a new deal, and I'm sick of seeing people giving out disinformation, and they have platforms that have hundreds, thousands of people listening to them, and they're telling people horrible stuff that will get people trapped here as earthbound spirits, making more work for me, making this place even more layered and dense. That needs to stop. That's why I like working with you. You're not about that. You're very positive. You're doing this because it is not just fun, but you believe in helping people. The mission is real. It's not a joke. So we're here for, and you take it that way, and I appreciate that about you. And your audience is great. So happy holidays to everybody, and please go back to the Appalachian. I'm probably gonna get booed off this deal in the chat.
No, that's why we're here. I mean, we're just having a discussion on what's going on in the Appalachians, and there's a whole lot of cursed land, a whole lot of curses, a whole lot of stuff that not only are we exposing a lot of this stuff and trying to get to the center of like what's going on there, we're trying to also figure out how to prevent us from being affected by whatever's going on at these places. Okay, because that's a big part of it. And like I had mentioned, I want to go to the Blair Witch location and the Blair Witch cave. But I told my son if he were to go, he better wear some rubber shoes or something because we're not getting rocks in our car.
Yeah, kind of a corny question. Don't laugh, but I'm seriously. Is that at all connected to the legend of like the Blair Witch, that movie? Is that what that's supposed to be? Is that similar?
They probably got some inspiration from that. Probably. I think so. I mean, I mean, I've been in some predicaments myself that were very Blair Witchish, I guess you could say. But yeah, I don't. Blair Witch was just kind of a made up story, I believe, but it was based kind of probably on some high strangeness in the woods, obviously. So could have been. Yeah, I mean, there's a story of some of the little boys in the Bell family going. I guess they dug up a Native American skull. Okay, and I believe they brought it over to the house, and the dad about flipped his lid and was like, "Whoa, get that thing out of here!" Some sort of bones, and I do believe they dropped the skull, and a tooth rolled off of it and went into the porch, the floorboards of the porch, like in between the planks, and they thought that had led to a curse too. Okay, like something bad had happened because of that. So yeah, don't be picking up no skulls, y'all. Okay, and don't be digging through Indian burial mounds, please. Okay,
Oh wow.
because we all know how that ends. All right, we all know how that ends.
Man, gosh, that's morbid as hell, man.
It is. Well, I mean, movies are based off that, like Poltergeist. You know that movie Poltergeist with Carol Ann? You know, they had gone and built a whole subdivision on top of an Indian burial mound, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah. Well, it was a cemetery.
A cemetery.
Remember with at the end, the tombstones were coming up out of the ground. You know, it's an interesting movie because that little girl, Heather O'Rourke, had kind of a negative demise. She got really sick, sepsis, and she died. Yeah, that was it's interesting, and several people in that movie, like the Poltergeist 2, there was the old man that's trying to let me in. He looks kind of pale. He had terminal cancer and was dying in real life, that actor, during the time he filmed that. So that was just kind of morbid topic and interesting. But yeah, based on, I think, true occurrences.
It gets worse if you dig into that story. We're not going there, okay, ever. But yeah, they're here. Carol Ann. I always loved that movie because I had some like psychokinetic abilities as a young lady and stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool, being able to see that. I mean, that was like a horror movie, okay. But for some of us, we have that ability to see through. You remember the white noise? I don't think you had the white noise in the televisions like they used to back in the 1980s, right? With those big, heavy, hulky square televisions. There's that white noise in there. And the white noise, that's kind of a cool topic. White noise. Because that comes up. That's how spirits communicate and stuff, and is speaking over that white noise. And white noise comes up sometimes in my remote viewing data. Okay, I tune into white noise sometimes while I'm remote viewing. I know that sounds weird. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that.
You got two things. One thing about Poltergeist, that movie. One, the actor, the guy from Coach was the dad. Anyway, but on the concerning the white noise, sometimes also the white on the TV, the static, when you get those stations, sometimes you can see those snake-looking things going through that. And, sometimes you can see them spiritually too, attaching on people. So they're not just in the TV. They're these type of, I don't want to call them. They seem like some sort of electric serpents to me or something. But you can see them in the fuzz and in the static of a TV. That's why I took interest in what at the other conference we were at, which Sherry, don't know how to pronounce her last name, Divabon, how she was talking about so many things about the TV. She was going on that, and specifically about the influence that the entities in there have over children. It's very interesting and valid, I think. So. Yeah,
we have to protect those children, man. We got to protect our kids against stuff like that. And we heard at the conference in Grafton, Illinois. I think you were in there to hear Sherry Dibban's presentation, and she works with children. Okay, but she was talking about her television being a portal, and literally seeing entities coming out of her television at some point.
So, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, that's who you're talking about, Sherry?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Sherry. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Divabon.
Okay,
I rode back from the airport with her, and
yes,
the other Barry. Yeah.
The other Barry.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. What we're talking about. So much respect. Hey, that right there, that's pretty cool too. That right there is something that's generational. That's where it's really at there. What that individual was saying.
Oh, the one before this?
Yeah.
The haunt, this comment, is that the one you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was adopted at birth, but I am the oldest boy in the family, and my grandpa was the last medicine man of the Osage tribe. I never personally got to meet him, but I've always felt weird stuff. Yeah, generational, right, Barry?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gifts passed down generational. Sometimes curses are passed generational. All these things, So it's very interesting. Then you get on land too, sacred land or haunted land. These things are that's the good thing about Earth, that it's everything is layered and compounds, and it's a trip here.
Yeah, it is. Well, you said the Earth is a prison planet, right? And I mean, I hear that all the time. And the more that I learn and the more that I experience here on this planet, I have to agree. Okay, I do agree with that. I agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not sorry. I think it is in a lot of ways, and but it's also a very beautiful place too. And we try to stay on the brighter side of stuff if we can. But yeah, Robin's right too. Family trauma is carried through the DNA too.
Yes.
So
yes, and
yeah,
yes, and also and even that, and I've encountered this a lot, that people, when they die and then they reincarnate here, even after a time, they still carry the trauma from their last death in their organs. It's the different deaths store in different organs. So it's amazing how somehow the soul essence can transfer that trauma into a new body. You know what I mean? It's really interesting. So and then you've got the DNA and the generational things coming on top of that, more layers for trauma. Then you're born into a traumatizing environment. You might have a screwed up parents or something, and you're getting abused. All these things, trauma walks around on this planet like a member of the population. It's a trip.
yeah. Okay, what that is terrible, and I 100% agree that it does. It's carried generationally and through the different lifetimes. Have you ever heard that our birthmarks are an indication of how we died in the last lifetime?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't say I conform to that, but I've heard that many times. And there's some people though that say, they have the pain here, the sign, and they go through regression. They maybe got killed, a spear or something. I can't say I conform to it completely, but I can't say it's not true either. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cool concept though, because if we can pass down the trauma, we can pass down the brilliance. Okay. If you come from a very smart family, you're probably pretty smart too yourself. You know what I mean? So it's not all bad. It's good stuff. It's the talent. I like to think I come from a pretty talented family. I love my families on both sides. And
that's really
yeah,
cool.
I mean, we got some crazy ones in the family, but I love them too. Okay. But yeah, like my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, even on my dad's side, all the women are very intuitive, very psychic. It's almost like it's passed down. And okay, so I have a question for you. Is that why people, okay, and I've had ET experiences. Okay, and so has, I know for pretty much positively, my great grandmother had too, probably my mom and my grandmother. They
Mm-hmm.
may just not know it. Okay, but I know that my mom's interested in ETs and stuff. She's not closed off to the idea of experiencing one or whatever. But I know my great grandmother and my great aunt had an abduction experience back in the 80s. So that's generational too, right, Barry? And why would that be generational? You think it's a genetics thing?
I've seen it sometimes will skip a generation or two.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody gets it or has it, but then it skips a generation, that person has it, or even two. Like I would suspect that my grandfather I never met, my mother's father was probably a contactee, but he was deceased long before I incarnated. But certain things she would say that were similarities that we had leads me to believe that, and I always felt very close to him, and I never met him. You know what I mean? So it's things before she passed, she said, "You're so much like my father." There's things about you that are a lot like him, and then I have several siblings. I have 3 siblings. Out of that, I have one that has some type of experiences. They're not as intense they're not like mine, but they have some type of experiences and awareness. They tend to astral project. So these things go also, with not just genetics, but also bloodlines. People really tripped out on the bloodlines right now, and how many extraterrestrials are interfering with which bloodlines, Rh negative, these different things. People are tripping on that. But it is, a connection there and things that we share, and not to mention that everything is connected. Quantum entanglement, everything is connected, even though we don't want it to be,
It is. It is. I have a question for you. What do you think the importance of blood types are? Because I hear this a lot from people that I do shows with, and they're always talking about like I do not disclose my blood type at all. I just don't. I don't want the world to know. It's nobody's business, right? Because it says a lot about you, doesn't it? Doesn't your blood type say something? And a lot of people like to, if they're Rh negative, I guess, like they talk about it sometimes. Some people I know do. What is the significance of blood types? And does that have something to do with all this paranormal stuff that's going on?
Ray Hernandez did a deal on that survey, the Free Foundation Research for Extraterrestrial Encounters, CCRI it's called now. One of the things they did was over blood types and the type with contactees. And during that, the consensus of those having contact wasn't just Rh negative. It wasn't what was, what were presented at all. And you've got so many people, like I'm telling you from the beginning, and I've had a platform to almost prove it now, that about, between 70 to 80% of our population are contactees of some type and are unaware of it because it happens in the dream cycle, in the dreamscape, and we can't retain that when we awake, but the amount of people that come into my field of awareness or make contact with me, and they'll say, oh, I'm not like you. I have experiences like you. And I feel this energy coming off them. That term I stole from Doctor Who, Artron energy, AR2RN, because when we're around these entities that are around these black holes, these Makos, or this technology and these ships that use these black holes and that energy, it irradiates our cells of our bodies. And I can detect it on other people. I've told you before that I could detect it on you. That's how I knew you were a contactee before you ever chose to disclose that to me. And then when you were in person, I could really feel it. I say, oh, no doubt. You know what I mean? So that is, and also for what it's worth, I'm sure that energy I'm talking about, we may even be tagged with it before we incarnate. And we incarnate here, and we have agencies that have ways to track that. And then they start hitting us with directed energy weapons and things of that nature. Things that make us think that it puts our contact in a different area, makes it more dark than it would have been because there's dark stuff going on down here. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, I don't want to talk too much. When we'll cross over an earthbound spirit. It's amazing how I can already see the portal there and loved ones there before the client's even in trance. Okay, I can already see this stuff, and the earthbound spirit can't see it until you really start talking about love and creator love. Then they can start seeing that light, seeing the portal, and the loved ones that were already there, but they couldn't see them before. They're still in shock. They're still dealing with the emotions, the trauma. You start talking about love and creation, it changes. So there's no doubt that the love and the light are connected. I don't care what any of these clowns are saying that haven't dealt with this at all and can't meet the 3 criteria that I've told you. Are they mediums? Have they had, every medium is a psychic, but every psychic is not a medium. And have they dealt with earthbound spirits, a population, inside, outside the energy field? Have they had a near-death experience in this body? Those are 3 criteria that you have to meet for me to even argue this with you. If you can't meet that, forget it. I'm not going to talk about it. Because you're just talking and they listen to other people or channeling some demon that you don't know what it is, telling you, don't go in that light.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, back to the Appalachians.
No, we're not talking about the Appalachians right now. We've been talking about blood and stuff. We're talking about blood. We kind of came around with all this kind of full circle a little bit, and I see my buddy is in here. I've got James Rink in here, you guys. James is here, and let's see. It says Ring on here. This is James Rink with Super Soldier Talk. We got a lot of great people in the chat. Hey everybody, I'm so glad y'all are here. I'm actually about to go on James's show in just a few minutes. He says about 15 minutes. So I've got a few more minutes tonight. So we're going to be on there with Jimmy Payne tonight. And so we've got, oh Lord, it's going to be controversial and amazing. Okay. So meet us over there just a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat that are saying they're, old blood types and stuff. I'm like I said, I'm not going to say what I am. But yeah, it's, and RH negative. Okay. RH negative blood. The girl in her gong. Hey, Maureen.
She's really tripped out on RH blood people right now. Saying that's extraterrestrial blood, yada, yada, yada. And ancient aliens addressed it, and it really seemed to put the whole topic on fire. Now, in the Black community, especially the Black community of contactees, this blood thing has always been really a hot topic. And you've got even things, people that claim they're in contact with Andromedans. And this would be the Andromedan females. It's like some type of androgynous, and have the dreadlocks, and they're supposed to be representing entertainment quite a bit, but that they have this RH blood negative too, and that they're claiming certain people and they're part of their bloodlines, including the Mayans, and it gets interesting.
It does get very well. It's all interesting for sure. I was about to put that link up there for James's show, but Jane got it. Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd ask you about the blood because I hear about it a lot. I mean, I hear about it more often than not these days about blood types and stuff. And so I'm wondering, like, okay, so are my friends with the RH negative, are they the aliens? That's kind of like the assumption I was making. I was like, well, they must be the aliens. Okay, but I think we're all aliens at this point.
I get asked what mine is all the time, especially due to the type of lifelong contact I've had. I get asked a lot what my blood type is, and I won't answer it either. It's not even important to me. You know what I mean? It really isn't. Yeah. But people want to trip out.
Know. What if somebody's a vampire, man?
The blue bloods and the royal bloods and all that. I think you've got more of these psychic vampires and these energy vampires down here more than anything, even more than the blood ones. These people that come around that just suck people dry. And we've all had people like that in our lives. People in the chat, I know they know people like that. Every time they come around, oh God, here comes this person. Let me shield myself. They're going to come talking a bunch of negative stuff, bringing you down.
I have experienced that with some people. Yes, I have. But yes, we're not going to go into the former spouse jokes and things like that. Okay, just kidding.
Hey, real quick, we got what 10 minutes left. Two things I want to touch on real quick. All right.
Okay.
And it's in terms of what we actually are here for. One thing would be quickly. You remote viewed I gave you a blind target of the Great Pyramid and who was building the Great Pyramid. You might want to go over that just real quick if you can, because that's interesting information. You had no idea what you're looking at as a blind target. All right. And also, I think another good one would be, I think we talked about the Chupacabra the other time, but maybe even the Yellowstone Whispers or even the octagons in the Antarctica, any of that stuff. We went over a bunch of stuff that was really interesting, all over, or even the planetoids outside the trans-Neptunian, trans-Neptunian objects and the bases that are on there. Again, these are all things you had no idea what you're looking at, and you nailed them. So maybe just a couple of things to go over, especially the pyramids. Maybe you want to touch on that, what you saw.
Yes, and I want to just address this, Hans. Yes, being positive and keeping your vibration high can keep a lot of the negativity out of your life. Okay, it'll bounce off you for the most part, a lot of it. So join the High Vibe Tribe over here, the Cryptid Huntress channel. Okay, yeah. So, well, I definitely want to touch on we can talk about the Chupacabra. Okay, that was something that I was picking up on a dinosaur. I thought it was a dinosaur when you asked me, but it was something that was a reptile and a mammal at the same time. I thought I was completely off target. I was also picking up on a hurricane on an island somewhere, which all of that is exactly what the story is about the chupacabras that escaped from a lab in Puerto Rico. I think it was in 1994. Okay. And that's my data aligned with pretty much exactly what John Vivico's team had looked into with the chupacabra, right, Barry?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's one of the reasons I gave to you as a blind. So I want to see if you got what they got. And concerning that hurricane, I might have mentioned that just yesterday, so I won't repeat it too much. But in 1994 is when the chupacabra was seen by that lady, and it just seemed to just gain all this traction. It was 1994, and this lab was supposedly hit, and the chupacabra escaped from this lab due to this hurricane hitting it. And in 1994, I looked up if there any hurricanes hit Puerto Rico, and there was. It was called Hurricane Marilyn. And then I typed in like Puerto Rico and genetic labs, and so many came up, I had to scroll. And, then you start tracing back how many of them existed in 94. It's things you can start looking this stuff up. It's not just woo or whatever you call it.
Not woo. I like woo. Okay. We're on the woo train tonight. We're always on the woo train, especially at Spaced Out Radio. Okay. And SOR is Spaced Out Radio for whoever was asking in the chat. Okay. Okay. So we had the chupacabra, and then we also had, tonight is the 1-year anniversary, by the way. I saw it on Facebook of when you and I did the remote viewing target of Earth's weaponized natural portals.
God, that was a year ago?
That was 1 year ago tonight. It was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw it on my memories on Facebook.
Wow. Boy, was that interesting. Now that's another one where I got a bit off more than what I expected to chew. You know what I mean? It was that was focusing on the net, because a lot of those scientists, or especially like the guys from Duke University, they're way past talking about if portals exist. They're talking about how to control them, and that's where they're at, and how to weaponize them. So that's what I gave you a target, was the Earth's natural portals. What you immediately started getting data on was the sun.
Yep.
And of course, the sun is a portal, and that's when we start getting into those civilizations, type 3, that they start using the fabric of space. And well, actually, type 1 civilization uses the power star. The parent star is the main power source. But going from there, you start going to type 2, type 3, to start using the fabric of space itself as a power source too. When you start dealing with that, and the fact that you have agencies on this planet wanting to weaponize our own portal, our own sun, that's horrifying. But it is what it is.
It is, but I mean, why wouldn't you weaponize something like that? I mean, everything is weaponized. And Dennis Carroll's in the chat today. Hey, Dennis. And I think he and I had talked about how the government was weaponizing dolphins. I mean, you weaponize anything. All right. And that's why we have these super soldier programs. Okay. And yeah, they're going to weaponize portals. I mean, I wish I knew how to access portals. I guess kind of we do. Hey, the human body is a portal.
Hey, real quick.
Right?
So tell everybody what she saw when you didn't know you were looking at the building of the Great Pyramids, Great Pyramid.
Oh my God, I don't remember. What did I think I saw? It's been a while since I did that one. I don't know. You tell me. Because it seems like I did that. I don't know. You tell me because I don't remember. What did I think?
Are you flunking? But
I'm not messing with you. I swear to God, I don't remember.
You out there worried about super soldiers right now. You ain't thinking about no pyramids.
No, really, I don't remember. I did so many of these targets, and I didn't know what that was at the time.
You had seen one thing was giants.
Oh, okay. Giants. That's right. Giants
doing labor of a type.
That's
and
right.
Then you had also described extraterrestrials, okay? And then you started describing a type of sound technology.
That's right.
And some of it's sound box technology and other type of sound technology. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I did. Now that comes up often too. One of my blind targets was also the Coral Castle down in Florida, and people have always been baffled as to how they made that. Okay, how that man made that. But I was picking up on sound frequencies, and he had said it was something that had to do. He built it the way the Egyptians built the pyramids. I think it was kind of a loose quote of what that guy said. That's how he made it. Now I was picking up on sound frequencies, vibrations. I was picking up on like synth waves, synthesizers and stuff. I don't know. I was picking up on all sorts of sound frequencies, but I was also picking up on giants and ETs, or like UFOs or something. It was some kind of extraterrestrial combination with giants and sound frequencies. And that's
sound, the manipulation of water too with sound.
And water. That's right. That's right. Now, you were just saying the other day when I was watching that interview you did with that guy at a SETI, you guys were talking about the water underneath the pyramids. Would that have something to do with that?
Oh, that is, yeah. Well, my understanding, what I learned, this is Kemetic too, that actually the pyramid, amongst other things, was to pull up the anti-gravity would pull up the water from the artesian well that actually is fueled by the Nile, and it will be purified through the pyramid and then released on the other side. That's one of its functions, also, amongst other things. And that underneath there were this water that's underneath there, this artesian well, where you've got the gravity thing that's pulling it up, and you've got souls that were like condemned in there. They're like, they're what's called the sleeping survivors, is what I've heard them call also, where they're in like a type of suspension, but they're in that water and in that gravity well down there. And at the time happens when there's the releasing of them, when I guess, higher beings come back or a Christed one comes back, they're supposed to be released from that gravitational sleep, the sleeping survivors. The Uranta book calls them the sleeping survivors too, I believe.
Wow. That's fascinating.
And it's interesting. I've had talked to several people that can see. They've seen that down there, seen water under there, and these what appear to be cocoons floating in these luminous cocoons floating in the water. So
whoa, wow! There's so much. There's so much more for us to look into. So, anytime you're ready to send me some more blind targets, some coordinates, I'll be glad to look at that stuff. Because I think we've done a pretty good job of uncovering some of these interesting mysteries of the world. Not that we've solved any mysteries here, but at least I think we've caused more questions than answers, actually. But I mean, that's part of the research, right, Barry?
Yeah, really it's it's just to bring enlightenment to this, for everybody to do their own research, to dive into it, communicate more, and just take us out of some of this. It changes things, even if we feel like it doesn't, because things are so much. When I was younger, there was nowhere to talk about this stuff. You had like In Search Of and maybe Omni magazine. That's about it. You didn't have anything else. Maybe Nexus magazine in the 90s.
I do. I remember. And I was lucky to have my mom, who took me along with her to like our weekly meetups at Mr. Sam's house in Marietta, Georgia. And we got to meet like-minded folks there. And I think that's so cool that I got to do that growing up. And I hope that in our communities we can start doing that, start at night. Like we had Wednesday nights, we'd all go to Mr. Sam's house. And that's how I met my Bigfoot research team. That's how I got into Bigfooting.
Mr. Sam's house?
It was Mr. Sam's house. That's right. It was Mr. Sam's house, and it changed my life. Okay. And I'm here talking with you guys today because of that. So it's all a matter of getting out there, going to these conferences, meeting people in person. Okay. And I don't know, just spreading the love, spreading the word. And I wanted to thank everybody for being here tonight. This has been a fantastic show. A lot of good times. I have to go over to Super Soldier Talk now. And Barry, tell everybody where they can find you, please, on YouTube.
On YouTube, find me under Barry Littleton. I'm on Patreon under Barry Littleton. Do a lot of stuff on YouTube right now. A lot is there. Go to the playlist and check it out, please. I've also got a website, barrylittleton.com, but don't do much there, but there are links on there. So I need to amp that up a little.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys go subscribe over to Barry Littleton on YouTube and join his Patreon, please. And Barry, please, I hope you have a wonderful Merry Christmas. Okay. And a very Happy New Year. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. Okay. But I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. And I want to thank you for all the work you've done with me and just being my friend and being here along for the ride this year.
It's my pleasure. I thank you, and I thank your audience, and it's been good. We did a lot of good work this year, so thank you for that, and to the audience too. Thank you.
We did. Well, oh my gosh. Well, everybody, y'all have a wonderful not Thanksgiving. Y'all have a wonderful Christmas, and thank y'all so much for all your love and support this year. And I'm going to try to be back next week with another show, but right before the new year. Okay. And y'all head over to Super Soldier Talk now. I will meet y'all over there. And again, Merry Christmas. Bye, Barry. Thank you so much for being
Merry
here.
Christmas
We'll
to
see
you
y'all
and to
soon.
everybody. Take
All right,
care.
bye, y'all.